Hey there, welcome back to the Marketing Wellness Podcast with Mandy and Roxy, where we share our combined knowledge and experience in the world of marketing, business, and wellness. I'm Roxanne Ray, and this is my co-host, Mandy Sommers. We are well equipped to bring you the latest in marketing and business knowledge. In this episode, we will be discussing embracing the struggle in business. We have lots to say about that. We will also include links in our show notes to anything we reference. Make sure to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode, and stick around to the end to get access to our exclusive community, where we share advanced trainings and tools to use for marketing your wellness and growing your business. So with that, Mandy, let's get right into embracing that struggle, because I know you've dealt with some struggles this past week. Tell us about it.
Well, as we were thinking about the topic of this podcast, this was really on my mind because the previous Mandy in business came up against struggles and would almost like sit and marinate in the struggle and feel sorry for herself, which does not progress my business at all, right? Sometimes it feels so good to be like, and to feel justified in it, and to just sit there and think, oh, that was so unfair. And that can distract us in our business.
Yeah.
And I feel like I spent a lot of years being distracted by the grievances of the things that I felt like I didn't have the skill for. And how am I supposed to run a business if I don't know what I don't know? All of those things. A lot of times when that struggle happens, it feels like we're up against a wall, and it feels like we can't break that wall down. And the problem with that is we often step back because the comfort zone is kind of like away from the wall. We don't like feeling that struggle, which is why I like to step back and I'd be like complaining about it, right? And then be stuck there. But as business owners, especially as business owners who are trying to grow to 6 and 7 and 8-figure businesses, we don't have time to marinate in our struggle, like it's
the discomfort.
The discomfort. We have to face it and figure it out. So this past week, as I was dealing with some of these struggles in my business that, quite honestly, I didn't actually have a lot of control over. Sometimes in business, we come up against struggles that we might not be able to fix ourselves. The question then became, how can I make this better for somebody that is going through this in the future? And so instead of sitting there feeling sorry for myself, I got busy making a list. And it was like, okay, what needs to change for this not to happen again? And so let's talk a little bit about some of the struggle that we might have with marketing and our businesses when we're running a small business. Roxy, do you want to talk about filling in that gap, that skill gap?
Oh, yeah, totally. I mean, that's where I see typically when people struggle in business, myself included, it's usually because there's a skills gap, right? There's a skill that I need to learn or that we need to learn in order to move past that struggle and for it to not be a struggle anymore, right? So for example, I've dealt with some issues with the bank recently and the payment processor that we use and them holding funds, and you could Google that and there's all kinds of crazy stuff out there about that. And I've just personally never dealt with that before. I've been relatively unscathed when it comes to that kind of thing for going on almost 8 years now in business. Super lucky, I get that. But that was something I had to deal with this past week. And I'll be honest with you, I'm kind of like you, Mandy, or maybe a little different in terms of when that kind of stuff happens, I feel like I go through like the 5 levels of grief, right? Like
Totally.
I start out like, just woe is me. Oh my gosh. Like, see, I just, forget it. Just burn the whole thing down. I'm done. Forget it. I'm out. Right. And then I get to like anger. I'm so mad. Like, does it have to be this way? And like, I'm just like a roaring lion through the house. Right. Not really, but you have your moment. Okay. And then it passes. And then you get to like, kind of like acceptance. You're like, this sucks.
It is what it is.
Right. Like, all right, well, I guess there's not, sometimes there's nothing you can do about it. Right. And you have to kind of like let things settle and kind of work themselves out. And I know, especially being business owners, kind of that A-type personality, that controlling, you want to have control over every aspect of your business, but that's not possible. Now, where you can have full control is over your skills, right? The things that you know how to do. And specifically when it comes to business growth, right? Because I think most of the people who are listening to our podcast, they're trying to grow their business. They see either the success we've had or they hear about the success and they want to have that for themselves and or add things to their business trajectory, right? So with the skills gap, what I see most people, and this is actually not just businesses online, but also offline or like your traditional businesses, think like your dental practice or your clothing store, right? Anything that you would consider like a typical business offline. Most of these businesses struggle with marketing and getting in front of new people to buy their products or services.
Yes.
That's why we have a marketing wellness podcast.
It's so true.
Right? Because it's one of those things where I feel like you and I, Mandy, marketing tends to come a little easier to us because it's of a huge interest for us. And therefore, it's not as much of a struggle. But I know other people where it's just like, I don't want to do that. I just want to, do my thing, right? I just want to fulfill. I just want to stay in my lane. But you don't have anything to fulfill unless you get out there and market. Right. And I know you've helped a ton of people gain the skill of marketing. And
as have you.
I know this is true. Yes, we both have, right? And it's been so much fun. And because of that, we have this bird's eye view of where people are in relation to what's happening, right? Like, you don't know what you don't know.
Right. Well, and one thing that I think is important to note is we didn't always know how to do what we're doing. And for me personally, when I was learning how to build funnels, for instance, or grow on YouTube, for instance, it was a huge struggle. I remember creating one video would take me half the week minimum, and now I can create a video in like 20 minutes, edited, filmed, scripted, everything. And I think that's important for our listeners to know that when we talk about the skill gap, I don't want you to sit and marinate in the feeling sorry for yourself because you don't know how to do it. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is put in the work to get good at what you need to be good at to build your business. What are the income producing activities that you're avoiding because maybe you don't know how to do it? You don't feel confident in it. It's frustrating. It's a struggle. And when you practice and you put that into play, you will become better at it. Now, I was a high school basketball coach. I love basketball. So I know we've used a few of these analogies, but I remember showing up to this was not high school basketball, just like a little rec league that I was coaching. And half of my team had never touched a ball before. So the skill that they had to learn was how to ball handle. Now, this was not ball handling with them, putting the ball through their legs and like doing all these fancy things with it. It was simply dribble down to the other side of the court. And in business, you have to start somewhere just like that. You don't expect to show up and be Steph Curry, like right out of the gate. It requires every professional. It doesn't matter if it's business, athletes, whatever. Like we have professionals in all different, avenues in this world. They put the practice in. And so if you're wanting to grow your business and your marketing skills, it's more than, and here's another tip that I think is important is if it's not working, stop practicing it. It's time to shift. For things to change, you must change. And to be stuck in, like, I've had students who are like, I've been posting on Instagram for 5 years and nothing's happening. Okay, well, first of all, we need to stop posting in the way that you're posting. It's time to go back to the drawing board and research and learn what is the skill that's being left out. Most of the time it's actually research. So if you're struggling, it might actually just be the research portion of it where you're actually communicating with the right type of people. But you have to learn how to fill in that skill gap. And it would be like a basketball player showing up, dribbling, picking up the ball and running down the court and being like, why is this not the way that I should be dribbling? Why do they keep blowing the whistle at me? Well, it's because you're not doing it right. And so
Yeah.
filling in that skill gap means not only are you doing it and you're showing up, but you're learning the right way to be doing these things.
Yes. Yes. And so when in this context of embracing the struggle and business growth, what I've seen is a lot of people who are newer to business, right? Maybe they've only been in business for a year or two, or even sometimes longer than that. There's this kind of romanticizing of business, like, oh, it's supposed to be easy. Like, I see all these people on Instagram and TikTok, they just make a few posts and they make all this money. But what is not seen is the behind the scenes struggle, right?
Yes.
And we've seen it because we've helped these people, right? These people, they come and like, well, how do I set up a checking page? And how do I collect the money? And how do I give them access to the thing that they bought? How do I deliver it? I don't know any of this stuff. How do I post that video? How do I edit it? Like all these things, they had to learn those skills. So to you, you see them posting on social media and making all this money. But what you didn't see is all the struggle behind the scenes. Oh my gosh, I just remembered something. When I first got started, I totally forgot about this, but this is part of my struggle in getting started. When I was learning all the online marketing, because I actually have my degree in marketing, so I have marketing background, but I didn't have the online aspect of it, which is a little different. And I am in consumption mode, right? I'm in all the Facebook groups. I mean, this was like 8 years ago, 7 years ago, where there were all these Facebook groups that had like 30,000 people in it. And okay, so you might be newer to online business. This has been an industry for a little while.
Right.
Okay. But this is the struggle I had. I'm the kind of person, I have to understand the big picture, like how the components fit together. I was getting all these little puzzle pieces, but I didn't see how they fit together. So I literally would stay up until like 1 or 2 in the morning, scouring through these Facebook groups, reading the posts, reading the comments of people helping each other, reading blog posts, like really trying to understand this bigger picture. No one knows that unless they obviously listen to the podcast or know my story,
Right.
that I truly struggled to understand all the components and how they fit together. All people see now is, oh, Roxanne can build a funnel in 2 minutes and whip up all these emails and have this whole campaign, and think that it took me like an hour or two. In many cases, it does only take me an hour or two, but realistically, if I'm going to make it correct, it does take some time, but it doesn't take me a month. Where at the very beginning, it took me a month.
And we look back at those very beginning ones and we're like, well, that was not great. But the important thing is that you went through the struggle that then led to the success that you have now. And I think struggle in business is evolving. It's ever changing. I think of the last couple of weeks, and I was building a new system. That's not the struggle I was talking about at the beginning, but like that was a huge struggle, right? Like we've gotten to a point in our business where I want to up level to the next level, right? Like, and so what did I have to do? I went out and I found a professional who has done what I want to do, and then I've had them teach me their system. Now, here's the thing that I was guilty of. And I know that you have a lot of experience with this, Roxanne. I, in the beginning, wanted done for you. And there's problems with done for you. The problems is, like, one of them is you have no idea, like, how your system works, first of all. Like, I actually think getting done for you stuff is a disservice because you don't have your hands in the process. You don't understand the process. So essentially you're asking somebody else to be your voice and market for you and then you're supposed to be the face of it. And how do you know what that process is without building it out? And so when I went and found this professional that's been helping me develop a new system, guess what? They're not, even though they require thousands of dollars to work with them, they're not building it out for me because they understand the same thing. And I remember being in that struggle, being like, why can't I just find somebody who will do this for me? Well, the reason why is because, first of all, it takes forever and it's not as effective. As a business owner, there are some things that you should not push off to other people. And I believe one of them is like guiding the voice of your company. You should be showing up knowing the customer journey, knowing the process, knowing how the funnel works, and that can seem overwhelming. But once I built this new system once, it took me about a week. I actually rebuilt it yesterday in 2 hours for like a whole new process.
Wow.
Now that I've learned it, I can do it again, right? And that's what we're saying. You have to push through that struggle, because the struggle is where you'll learn and you'll grow. And now I can use this new process I've learned over and over and over again in lots of different aspects of my business. Instead of paying $25,000 to have it done for me and never be able to recreate it, I've learned a new skill, even though it was hard, that I now can recreate myself. So I feel like that's priceless. People don't see behind the scenes. They see success. They don't see behind the scenes, realizing that as a business owner, you need your hands in these things. You just do.
You absolutely do. I mean, Mandy, what you said is the reason why I had started my Thrive Academy, because I was doing, I had one-on-one clients. We had like a book of clients. We were the done for you, right? Doing their ad campaigns. And when I look back at the successful ones compared to the ones that maybe had potential, the ones that had potential, the business owner was not involved at all. They just were not involved. So you're kind of having to scrape things together and try to make it work as best you can. The ones that really killed it were the ones where the business owner was 100% involved and allowed me to coach them, get what I needed from them so that their campaign could work that much better. And what I saw is when the client understands the whole process, it just, the business blossoms.
Yes.
Because the marketing works at that point, right? So that's why I was like, I need to teach people how to do this themselves so that, sure, if you want to hire someone to do it for you in the future, you know what should be expected of you. And then you also can hold them accountable to what they should actually be doing, because now you know the process. So it's the same thing.
I love it. Well, if we could wrap up this episode, I would say my thoughts would be consistency trumps talent. A lot of us think we're not talented enough. We don't understand it. And that's not what it's about. It's about showing up consistently, pushing through the struggles, learning the new skills, even though we don't feel talented with it, and continuing through that, regardless of how you're feeling. When you come up against that wall and you feel like you're banging your head against a wall, it's time to go into solutions mode, where you're like, how can we either get around this, get past this, move forward? Don't marinate in the struggle. Push through the struggle. Learn that as a business owner, it's time for you to show up and be resilient. It's time for you to show up and be that person that you're wanting to run your business. And I think a lot of times we want to hire that person. And I'm here to tell you today that it will be way more effective if you are that person, you learn those skills. Any last thoughts, Roxy?
It's way more fulfilling. When you are that person, business is more fulfilling. You actually feel like, wow, this is what it's like. This is worth it to me. Because otherwise, if you stay in that struggle, I feel like that's when you start doubting. You start thinking, oh, wow, maybe I should just go get a job. Why am I even doing all this work? And when you flip that and you gain the skills and you push through the struggle and come out the other side, it's so much more rewarding. It's fun. It's fun. Like, even with all the struggles that I know you and I have been through over the years, I still would not trade this for anything else.
It's absolutely amazing. And get yourself a bestie that you can call and just, like last week when I was going through my struggle, I called Roxanne and she's like, is everything okay? I'm like, I just need to talk for like 5 minutes and like get that out. And so if you feel like you need somebody to almost like rant to, so that you can move past it, which sometimes I think we need to do, then find yourself a friend in business who can listen for 5 minutes, but then also encourage you to move through it and justify, yes, it's hard what you're going through, but it's time to get back to work. So thank you so much for tuning in for this podcast. We are so thrilled to have you as a listener. We hope that if you like this, that you can give this a like and you can share it with your business friends and family. And we hope to see you in our next episode. Be sure to check out in the show notes below our marketing wellness AI community, where we every month meet live on Zoom with hundreds of online marketers just like you. And we teach the top brand new things in AI for you to apply into your business. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.